Okay, the first step in making our charts, our figures, is to get the first one in. And what I need to do is highlight the data here. And I am going to insert a chart. And I want to make sure to insert the scatter chart right here. Don't do the line chart. That will mess you up. So I'm going to do the scatter chart. And when I click here, I have a number of choices. I want to choose this one. I want lines. I want the markers for the data points. And I do not want the curved lines. So this is the one right here. So it inserts my chart. And I will resize this to a nice size. I don't want to make it too square. I don't want to make it long and skinny. Just a nice size that's going to fit on the page. Okay, next up, I want to fix up the chart title. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to lay it out as it would be done on page, shown on page BP 17. So this is figure 1. Oops. And it is CO2 released by yeast at various ethanol, and of course you would put in whatever your data is based on. Okay, and then I want to put underneath this trial 1. Okay, and for now, okay, there, resized it, and that looks good. The next thing I want to do is I want to set up my y-axis. There are 3 problems with it that I need to fix. So I'm going to click right here on the axis, and I'm going to come over here, and first thing I want to do is make sure I have a solid line, that it is black, and I'll make it just a little bit thicker so that it's obvious. Because Excel doesn't put one in automatically, and that's a requirement in science. Okay, next thing, you notice that I've got this 1 that doesn't have a decimal place. We want all these to have the same number of decimal places. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the to the axis options down to number, and I want to change the category to number, and that allows me to specify decimal places, and I only need 1. And this way all of them will have the same number of decimal places. So far that looks good. One other thing I want to do while I'm in here is I want to find the right spot. Make sure I'm on my axis right here, highlight that, and I come over here. I want to set this maximum to 1.8. I've looked ahead at my other ones. I'm not going to have anything that's going higher than 1.8. You might need to set this to 2 if you have some going on, but one way or another you want to set this maximum. That's important because you don't want your other graphs to resize. Okay? Next up, I want to come to my x-axis, which is in better shape. The only thing I need to do here is I go to the paint bucket and I want a solid line. Excel now knows that I'm meaning business, so it's already given me the black, and I want to change, I believe I had the other one set to 1, maybe 1.5. So now I have both my axes the way I want. Okay, click in the chart here. And one of the things that you will notice is that I don't have labels on these axes. So I want to click here, and I want to add axis titles. Okay, and that puts them both in. And for this axis, this is going to be CO2 produced, or released, I guess. And that is in milliliters. Okay, I want to make sure that this 2 is subscripted. So I do that, and then I come up here to Home, and I go in font, this little arrow in the corner, and I come down here. It's kind of a pain to do this in Excel. While I'm here, I need to fix it up here as well. We're scientists, we do this right. Home, font, down in the corner, subscript. Okay, if it's square, then we would superscript it. So that takes care of that axis, and this axis was merely time. So I put in time, and that was in minutes. Okay, so now I have my title and I have my axes set up. Okay, one thing that I would like to do is I would like to have these series here named appropriately. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to click up here in the middle. I don't want to click on a line or anything. I'm just going to click in the middle here, and I'm going to select data. I'm going to go to series 1 here. Okay, I'm going to edit it, and the series name, okay, it is, the data are in column B. Okay, so what I want to do is come over here at column B, and I want to choose that. That's the 0%. Click OK, and notice it's changed here. Series 2, edit, and the series name is 0.5. Okay, series 3, edit, 1.0. Series 4, edit. Okay, come across here, this is 1.5 over here. Okay, and series 5, edit, right there, and click OK. And so now I have all my axes labeled, or all, excuse me, all my data sets labeled. So next up, I need to insert my trend lines. Last week in lab, you did this manually by picking an area and drawing a line through it. This week, we're going to get a little bit more elaborate, and we're going to use Excel to draw the lines. So in order to do this, what I need to do is I need to trick Excel a little bit. If I just clicked on a set here, and told it to insert a trend line, it would put a line through all the data, including the lag phase down here, and I don't want to do that. I want to select a region towards the end where the graph is increasing at a relatively steep rate that looks like a more maximal slope. So for this one, in fact, for all of these on here, at least for a couple of them, I want to start at about 15, and so I only need these last 5 data points. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to have to insert another data set, reduced data set, and then draw a trend line through that. So I right-click in the graph, go to Select Data. You'll be using that a lot. I want to add a series. Now I'm going to call this, just to set it apart, I'm going to call this T1%. Okay. And for this, for the series X values, I'm going to select 15 through 20. And I've already messed this up. This should have been T 1.5%. I messed up which one I was doing, because I wanted to start with that one because it's easy to see. Now, here's where the tricky part gets in. I want to choose the Y values that correspond with that, and this little equals 1 thing always messes you up. So make sure you delete that before you do anything else. So I come to my 1.5% column here, but all I want are these last 5 data points. And if I've done this right, this goes 19 through 24, 19 through 24, and I click OK. And I'm going to click OK again. And now you can see I have new data points with new colors, and there's a new line here. We'll worry about that later. I want to insert a trend line through here, and the slope of that trend line will be my rate. So I click on these, and I right-click, I add a trend line, and menu comes up over here. I want linear. I want to display the equation and display the R squared on the chart. The R squared tells you how well it fits. The closer it is to 1, the better, and this is a really good fit. Okay, so I have that information in there. While I am here, I will come over to the paint bucket, and I don't want it to be green. I want it to be black, and I want it's got a dotted line there, that's fine, but I want to make it a little bit wider. So I'm going to kick that up a little bit, kick it up a couple notches, and I'll put it right there. Now what I want to do is I want to move this over here where I've left a little room, and I want to modify it a little bit just so I can more easily tell which one it is. I'm going to put 1.5%, and then I'm going to hit enter. So it's set up like that. And if I really want to get fancy, you don't have to do this. I really want to get fancy. I know I'm going to be turning it in color. I can come over here and I can make it kind of the original color of the line. That doesn't show up very well. So I think I'm going to just hit undo here and leave it, whoops, redo, leave it black. Okay. So I need to do this now for all the lines except the 0%. There's no slope there, so I'm not going to mess with that. So let's do the rest of them in order. We'll do the 0.5. When I look at this here, just to be a little bit different, I'm going to start at 16 and go out to 20. Or actually, maybe it kind of drops off there a little bit. I'm going to go from 15 through 19 on this one. 15 through 19. So what I do is I right-click in the middle of the graph, I select data, I add, my series name will be T and then 0.5. The T isn't super critical, that just makes it helpful later. And then I said I was going to go 16 through 19. So I'll highlight 16 through 19 here, and then whoops, I'm sorry, that's in the wrong spot. Just delete that. X values, 16 through 19. And then Y values, come in here, delete that, and come over to the 5% column, 16 through 19. These match up, 20 to 23. I click OK. And so there's my new data set that is in there. Click OK. Click on these, make sure I just have those 4 selected. Right click, add trend line, equation, R squared. Okay, slide it over to where I can see it. And this was 0.5%. Enter. My enter didn't take. There we go, enter. Okay, and we have that in there. And notice my graph is getting a little bit messed up with this stuff down here. I'm going to make this just a little wider. Maybe that's not going to help. We're going to take care of that in a little bit, so don't worry about that right now. We'll have to move some things around. Okay, so that was, we've got the 0.5. We have the 1.5. I need to do the 1 next. That's in the gray. And I'm just going to go 15 through 20 on that. So right click. Select data, add, series name is going to be T1%, series X values 15 through 20, series Y values, get rid of that, and come over right there, A24, D24, that's where I want to be, okay. And I'm going to say OK again. I could keep on, some people like to put all the lines in first and then mess around with them, but I like to do it this way. So I click here, right click, add trend line, equation, R squared. I want to, and I forgot to do this on the last one, I want to come in here and I want the color to be black. And I'm going to make it a little bit wider. Okay, maybe one more. And let's, this one, I want to make sure I label it because it's starting to get confusing. So I put 1.0%. And let's just slide, enter, and let's just slide it out of the way for now. Okay, I've already done 1.5%, so next up is 2%. And I believe that's going to be the last one, right? So for the 2%, I'm going to start at 16, and I'm going to go up to 19 again. Again, people are going to differ a little bit on how they do that. So right-click out here, select data. I want to add. Series name is going to be T2. I want to go series X values. I said 16 through 19. And series Y values, delete that. I'm using the delete key to get rid of that, by the way. And 16 through 19. 23, 23, that should work. And I will say OK. And there is my new line right here on the 2%. I'm going to click right. I'm going to try just right-clicking there, and I can add a trend line. I got the right one. Equation, R squared, go to paint, solid line, black, kick it up a little bit over 2, and then I come in here, rescue my equation. This whole thing is a mess because of all this stuff we've got on here, but don't worry about that. And I want to put 2.0%. Enter. Okay, so now I've got everything I need, and I've got to clean this up a bit. The only lines I need in my legend were my original ones. I don't need any of these T ones, and I don't need all these linears. So what I can do is I can come in here and I can click on these individually. See how it's highlighted? I use the delete key. Okay, just make sure you don't delete one of your original ones. If you do, hit undo. Okay, any of those ones I put a T in, that's why I put that T there. Okay, I can get rid of all these. You have to, click twice here to get them out of there. And you see how my graph now is getting back to more manageable proportions. Okay, so I need to rearrange things a little bit. I've got my 5% where I need it. 1.5%, that was the yellow, it's in the right spot. 1% was it with the gray. So that's going to go right about here. Now some people will put these in order over here. I like to put them near the ones that they represent, but that is up to you and your instructor. Okay, and I'm going to bring this one down a little bit so they're spaced out. You want to make sure they're not going over each other, and you want to make sure that they are relatively aligned. Okay. They're all different widths and stuff, so it's hard to get them perfect, but you want them kind of relatively aligned. So that's not too bad right there. Okay, the remaining thing I need to do is I need to get rid of these different colors that I've got in here. Okay, because those are distracting. I don't want that green in there because, again, we've taken it off the legend. So this is pretty easy to do. What I do is I come in and I click on those, okay? And then I come over here and I just tell it I want no line. I come up here to marker, I go to marker options, and I tell it none, okay? And they're gone. Come to these red ones here, okay? Already at marker options, none. Go back to line, no line. They're gone. Okay, here, no line. Go to marker, options, and none. Okay, here I go to no line, and whoops, I clicked on the trend line. I didn't want to do that. Okay, so I put that back in. Okay, I want to make sure I get the right thing here. So I got the trend line instead of these data points. Okay, I got the trend line again. Now if you do that, if you're having trouble, you can come up here and you can go with this. And what I want to do is I am working on the 0.5, I believe there, in the in the orange. So I come down to series T 0.5, okay, which is right here. And I click on that, and that should select the data points that I want. And again, no line, marker, and marker options, none. Okay, so now when I click away, everything's pretty much the way I want it. I didn't get that trend line quite the way I wanted. I wanted to make that a little bit bolder, a little bit thicker. So I'll go back and fix that up now. Okay, so now I've got everything laid out pretty much the way I want it. And here you want to double and triple check that everything is right, because if you the next step we're going to do is my secret sauce for making this very, very easy. And it only works if this first graph is perfect. Check your spelling. Okay, you can run the spell check and go through. And I say yes, good to go. Okay, haven't misspelled anything. Make sure these are pretty much where I want them. You can do some minor adjustments later, but for the most part, you don't want to be making any changes. One other thing I'm going to do while I'm here, just to make sure, is I'm going to click on this axis here, and I'm going to set that maximum there to 25, just so it doesn't move around on me later. And if I come into the plot area there, and I click plot area options, okay. Yes, I'm just going to leave that the way it is. Everything else looks good. Okay, here comes the magic now. We want all three of your graphs, these graphs here, to be identical. Okay, there's a number of ways you could do that. You could go to the next set of data, trial 2, and do this, and just be careful to make everything the same. There's a much, much easier, much faster way to do it, and let me show you. I click out here, so my chart area is highlighted. Okay, once I'm sure I've clicked the right thing, I click again with the right click this time, and I copy it. I come to trial 2. Okay, whoops, I need to go back here. Trial 1, if I look at this, I have the view the zoom is set to, right here, it's set to 160%. That's important, so I just note that now. I zoomed it in to make it easier for you to see. I come to trial 2. I want to set my zoom here to 160. So it's the same size. That'll avoid some confusion. And I come over here, click in that cell right there, or approximately there, and I do Control V, or I can do, actually I'm not seeing it, home, I can do paste. Okay, and there's my chart, the same one, figure 1, trial 1. So very important right now, before we do anything else. And did this, okay, there we go. Figure 2 and trial 2. Okay, everything else is still the same. Now I obviously have to change the data. Okay, so that's going to be a bit of a problem, but we now have a new chart here. What I can do is I can start getting rid of things a little bit, but it'll be easier in a second. We need to get rid of the old data and put on the new. But let me show you the easy way to do that as well. I'm going to right click in the plot area and go to select data. Okay, I am going to go to my 0%, which I don't really need to change, but I'll just show you. Okay, and it's pulling all these from trial 1. The only thing I need to change is this trial 1 right there. I need to change that to trial 2. Now you don't see any change on this one. Okay, and then I say okay. So let me go from the top down now with these. I go back in here and select data. I didn't really even have to exit. I'll start right here. I will go edit. And again, all I need to do is change the Y values to a 2. Come to 1.0, edit, change the Y values to a 2. Okay, come down to 1.5, edit, change the Y value there from trial 1 to trial 2. And for 2%, edit, trial 1 to trial 2. Be careful as you do that. Undo is your friend. Okay, and now I can click OK. So now my trend lines no longer work. I've got some weird data floating around in there, and we need to get rid of some of that. So first off, I'm just going to click on these trend lines and delete them, and that will take care of their equations as well. The other thing, we still have a number of different data sets in there. So again, right click, select data, and remember we had all these T1s down here. Okay, so we want to go, all these T's, we want to delete those. Remove. Notice it jumps up. You don't want to remove your good data, so remove. So now I've just got the 0 through the 2%. I say OK. So I've got new data set. I need to put in new trend lines now. Same procedure that we had before. I'm just going to work these top to, well, let's go with, let's do them in order. 0.5%, I'm going to go 16 minutes to 20 minutes. So I am going to select data, add, this is going to be T 0.5. And the X values are going to be, I said 16 to 20, and my Y values, highlight that, delete it, are going to be right here. 16 through 20, numbers match up, click OK. And there's my new numbers. Add data, and now I'm going to do 1%. So T1, I don't really need to get too fancy because I don't really care about those. I just need to recognize them. For the 1%, I kind of like that little bump at the end here. So let me get really drastic. I'm going to go with 0.18 to 20. So I'm going to come in here, 18 to 20, and delete that. Come over to 1% and 18 to 20. Numbers match. OK. I am going to add. And now I am at 1.5%. So T 1.5. And with the 1.5%, let's go with 15. Okay. And so I'm going to X values 15 to 20. And Y values, delete that. And my 1.5 column 15 through 20. Double check I've selected the same number, say OK. And that leaves 2.0. And so I'm going to add, and this is going to be T2. And the X values, let's see, where's my 2%? It's the blue right here. I'm going to go with these last four, 16 through 20. So the X values, 16 through 20. And the Y values, delete that. 2%, 16 through 20. Click OK. And click OK. So there's all my new ones. And now I just basically repeat the process. I'm going to start from the top. Right click here, add trend line, R equation, R squared, go to the paint bucket, and make my line black. And kick it up a couple notches. Okay, come down, come to here before I forget, and this was 1.5, so 1.5%, enter. Okay, get that up out of the way. Okay, come to this one here, right click, add trend line, linear. Do those, come in here, I want to make this black, that'll automatically kick that up to solid, and the width, kick that up a bit. Okay, this one was the 1%, 1.0%, Care a little bit more about these here because they are going to, whoops, I don't want to do that. So that moved a little bit. I'm going to undo that. Okay, make sure I got the right thing selected here. Just get that out of the way. Okay, come to this one here, right click on it, add trend line. Equation R squared. Paint bucket, black, make it a bit thicker so that it's visible. Come in, format this. This was the 2.0. So 2.0%, enter. Move it out of the way. The red one is the 0.5%, so right click, add trend line, boom, boom, here, black, and kick it up a notch or two. Okay, I'm not even going to mess around with the 0 again. So this was 0.5%. Okay, I've got my second one in there, and now I can be a little bit more, since I know things aren't going to move around on me, I can be a little bit more deliberate in getting these lined up. And okay, someone up, that's overlapping a little bit. I don't want to do that. So there we go. I've got those set up. I've got all these extra things here. So I click, oh, yeah, it's going to move again. I'm sorry. Get rid of all the T1s and T1.5. T2, don't need that. Should I get the right thing here? There we go. Linear. The delete button is your friend. A lot of people don't know how to use that, but it's great. You don't have to backspace or anything. Just delete. Okay, so there we are. The alignment here doesn't look too bad, so I can probably leave this the way it is. The only thing I need to fix now is I need to get rid of those colors. So I come up here and I try to make sure I don't get the trend line, which is a little bit tricky sometimes. And I got the trend line. Yeah, keep getting the trend line. So again, if you're getting the trend line, there I got the data series. Okay, it's highlighting it over here. So now I can come in here and I could say no line, marker options, none. Okay, got rid of that one. And this one here, see if I can get that, keep getting the trend line. So again, if you get stuck on this, I can go the, let's see, that was the 1.5 right here. That highlights those. And again, paint bucket, no line, marker options, none. Okay. I'm just going to keep going over here. Series options. It looks like I want to get the 2%. Okay. And that is the series T2. And notice it highlighted those things right there. Marker, none. Line, no line. That one's gone. And the last one is the 0.5. So again, this little thing here. And there is the 0.5. T.5, I should say. And again, line, no line. And marker options, none. Okay, I now have figure 2 done, and I'm ready to move on to figure 3. And for figure 3, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm not going to bore you with it though. I'm just going to go on and show it to you. Well, I'll show you how I set it up again. I've got this one selected here, this chart, copy, go to trial 3, get my zoom set up, view, zoom, I remember it was 160 now. And yours might differ. It doesn't have to be 160. Whatever works best for you on your screen. Come up here and I can control V to paste it in, or I could just go and paste. And again, get in here and figure 3 and trial 3. And then I want to go to my various data sources here. So I'm going to select data. And for 0.0, I'm going to edit, and I don't want trial 2 here. Notice I've still got trial 1 back there. That's okay. These, though, have to be trial 3. It's going to jump all over the place, but that's okay. Okay, for 0.5, edit, come down here, trial. I'm going to turn all those 2s into 3s. 1.0, edit. So how easy this is. 3 and 1.5, edit. 3 and 2.0, edit. 3. Okay, and say okay, and say okay for now. Now, again, it's worth, double checking, make sure you got the right data. So for instance, on the gray line here, the 1%, it topped out at 1.2. That checks. The red one topped out at about 0.4. That checked. That was the 0.5. The 2.0 got not quite to 1.2, 1.12. So, just double check and make sure you got the numbers right. Okay, at this point now, I'm going to finish this one up behind the scenes, and then we'll go on to do the final table and the final graph. Okay, so we're back to working on our table here, and the first thing we need to do is put the table in. I've set one up over here just so I know what to do. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to highlight, I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns for this data. Let me get this squared up a little bit here. And so I'm going to highlight, come down to here, highlight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I want 2 rows, and I'm going to merge and center. I can then go in here and I can start to type table 1, okay, and yeast fermentation rates, and that is milliliters CO2 per minute in the presence of different ethanol concentrations. Okay, now that if I click out here, that doesn't look quite right. So I'm coming back in here and I'm coming up to this wrap text right there. So that fixes that. And then I want to put a nice dark line underneath it. You can format your tables. There's different ways. I'm going to come over here, though. I'm going to put a thick bottom border. Then I'm going to highlight these 5, merge and center again, and I'm going to type in ethanol concentrations. And again, while I'm here, click out, click back, and click in that heavy bottom line. And then over here, I need to put in my trial rates, trial 1 rate. And I'm going to just grab that and I'm going to bring it down to, I'm going to come in here, trial 2, and make sure I've got trial and not trail, trial 3. And then average rate. Okay, these are getting a little bit crowded, so I'm going to click right here. I'm going to come up over to where it says format, and I'm going to go auto fit column width. That's a great one to have in your toolbox. Okay, and I messed up. I need to move these down a row because I still have to get in 0.00%, tab over, 0.50%, tab over, 1.00%, tab over, 1.50%, tab over, and 2.00%. percent. Okay, so now I've got those in. So now all I need to do is put these numbers in. But they are spread out over all these other things here. So let me show you a trick on doing that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Trial 1, and I'm going to come up to View, and I want to put in New Window. Don't worry about anything for now. Trial 2, View, New Window. Trial 3, View, New Window. And at this point I go View, Arrange All, and Tiled right up here. Okay, that gets them all there. They're not quite in the order I want. I want this one to be Trial 1, this one's Trial 2, this one's Trial 3, and this one to be the rates. Scroll up in here, and so now I need to go hunting, and I'm going to come up to make sure I'm in the right one. Come up to figure 1 here, and for Trial 1 rate at 0%, the rate was 0. Okay, Trial 2, or excuse me, the ethanol concentration I'm going to work across was for 0.5, that was 0.033. 1% was 0.634. And the 1.5%, 0.874. And finally, the 2% was 0.107. Okay, and so I put those in there. Now, eventually I'm going to have to calculate the averages. So I put in equals AVE, and then I click on average here, double click. It gives me parentheses, and I come up and I highlight these three, and I close them. And right now my average is 0. Drag these across. Okay, and I have my averages. Trial 2 rate, we're up here. And so Trial 2 rate for 0 is 0. And for 0.5%, it is 0.052. And you notice these are updating. I'm going to jump ahead at this point to the next part. Okay, so I'm back. I've put in these numbers here. The next thing I want to do before I go any further is check. The 0% column, no problem there. The 0.5% column, I come over here, 0.5%, I have 0.33, that's what's right there. 0.52, that's what's right there. 0.311, that's what's right there. 1%, I have 0.0634, 0.08, and 0.82. right here. Okay, 1.5%, 0.874, 0.737, and 0.111. And finally 2%, 0.107, right there. 0.75, 2%, 0.75, and for Trial 3, 0.105 at 2%. So my numbers are right. I now need to bring in my average rates, and so for this what I can do is I can expand this to the whole screen, although there we go, my recording controls were in the way. So I can make this a little bit bigger so we can see what's going on. And what I need to do is I need to get in the average rate. So I just start typing here, type in an equals, and then AVE, and you see average. Double click on that. It gives parentheses. You highlight those three numbers above it. You close the parentheses, and it gives you the average. The average of 3 zeros is 0. Okay, now we click that little box in the bottom and drag it across, and there's all our averages. Okay, one thing you might want to do at this point, come in here we're starting to get too many decimal points. So let's reduce those a little bit. That looks pretty good like that, 2 decimal points. Okay, let me get rid of all this. Since don't need it anymore. And I'm going to now, I need to graph this particular data right here. Okay, that is the data I want. Let's see what the warning is. Yeah, formula Mr. J. So, okay, I'm not worried about that. So I've got the data in here that I want. I might want to check this with a calculator, and I got 3 data points. That's easy to do. Now, these numbers are what we call continuous values. Unless you're doing different carbohydrates, most of the data you're going to be generating in this lab is this type of data. We could have easily done a concentration of 0.25 or 0.125 or 0.175 or whatever that half. We could have kept dividing it by halves. We could have put any number in between, but we didn't. So what we've got is basically this is going to be a line graph, although we want to be using these numbers right here for the values. So I'm just going to highlight these right here. I'm going to come up to Insert, and I still want to do an XY scatter plot, and I'm going to choose this line right here, and it pops in like that. Okay, and again, make it the size I want. I don't know what this little squiggle is. It's been bothering me all day. Now, I don't like these numbers down here. So again, I'm going to click here, right click. I'm going to format the data series. Excuse me, not format data series. I want to select the data. My series 1, what I'm going to do now is I want to edit that. And for the series X values, I want to click there. And I want to come right across like this, and there we go. That fixes that. I can leave this pretty much the way it is. I still need to do my chart title and all that type of thing. So this is going to be figure 4. If I can get in there. Okay. Again, going back to page BP17, our Bible. Figure 4, colon, effect of ethanol concentration on yeast fermentation. Effect of ethanol, okay, concentration on yeast fermentation. Okay, and I think that's all I need for that. At this point, I want to add a chart element. I could go here, and I want the axis titles. I can get them both right here. Axis title down here is going to be ethanol concentration. And that is going to be a percentage. Oops. And on this axis, this one's a little bit trickier. This is going to be average fermentation rate. Okay, and that is in, you always have to have units, milliliters of milliliters CO2. Oops, don't need a P in there. CO2 per minute. Close parentheses, hunt down my 2 in there, go to home, a little thing in the corner font, subscript, okay? And so if I'm looking back at my figure 4 on BP17, this looks about right. In terms of the effect of the glucose concentration, I've got all my axes are right. Oh, no, my axes aren't right. I got to come in here. Remember, I got to fix my axes. Click on the axis. We want a solid line in black. I'm going to make it a little bit thicker. Show we mean business. And we want to fix those decimal points. So we need to go to, whoops, axis options, number. We want to change that to number, and that allows us to put in the decimal points. and 2 decimal points looks good in this case. Okay, down here on the x-axis, go back to the paint bucket, solid line, and we'll thicken it up a bit. Try to get the same. Ideally, I'd like to get the same one. I didn't pay attention. That one looks a little bit thicker at 1.75. And paint bucket, yeah, 1.25. Okay, so I got a nice line there. Now, does this line make any sense? You got a really low value there. And I come over this chart that's in the 1%. And I'm looking at these rates here. And it looks a little bit odd right in there, 0.6, 0.8, but all these numbers are low. I mean, we would have expected maybe something up here. So maybe some experimental error going on there. Somebody's going to have some explaining to do on that one. I want to go back and check those numbers just in case. Let's see, trial 1, the rate for 1%, 0.6. Trial 2, the rate was 0.808, and trial 3, 1%, where's 1% up here, 0.08. So those numbers are right. And that average looks about right. I mean, we could, if we went to 3 decimal places, we might see a little bit more difference. And those numbers are still there. If we highlight all the, whoops, I don't want to do that. If we highlight all that, and we go to 3 decimal places, we could see that those differences are there. So, not quite sure what's going on with that. Somebody's got some explaining to do, but most of our work is done at this point. Okay, we're back. Let's get this thing finished up. What we want you to do is turn in those 3 graphs, the table, and then the final graph, the summary graph, in a single Word document as if it was part of your lab report. So I've opened up a blank Word document here, and I'm going to go up near the top and I'm going to put a few essential things in there, such as my name, which a lot of my students have been forgetting of late. Okay, and then this would be, biology. Oops. G105, biofuel sample graphs. Get the assignment in there, and then hit enter once or twice, and I'm going to start pasting stuff in. So I go into my Excel file, I go to trial 1. Okay, I'm going to click once on that graph, get the outside highlighted, right click, copy. I'm going to click here where I want to put it. This is important. Don't just paste it in. Click here and paste it in as a picture. It's the safest way to do it. Okay, there it is. It's pasted in. Click on it once. It highlights. Go use the arrow. Go over. Well, use the mouse right here. Go right there. Hit enter once or twice. And I can come back over to Excel. Trial 2. Oops, didn't get there. Trial 2. Highlight that one. I am going to copy it. There, copy. Gotta come back here. Control V will paste. Whoops, I didn't want to do Control V. I'm sorry. Undo. Keep forgetting. I want to paste in like this. Now notice it went on to another page. We would like to get you to get these on just 2 or 3 pages, about 2 graphs per page. So I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller. Okay, and I'm going to center it up. And then I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller. Make it a little bit smaller than that, apparently. And make this one a little bit smaller. I need to make them smaller until they both fit on the same page. There we go. Okay, click on that one. Come up here and center it. And kind of make sure they're about the same size. Whoops. Yeah, that's about as close as I'm going to get with this. So make sure they're about the same size. That one still looks a little bit bigger. Okay, so there's figure 2. Click out here. Enter a couple times. May as well go to the next page. Come back here to trial 3. Right click. Copy. come in here and paste as picture. Whoops, I got trial 2. That wasn't what I wanted. So got to double check these things. Delete that, trial 3. There we go. Get there, copy, and paste there. Okay, figure 3, trial 3, figure 2, trial 2, figure 1, trial 1. At least I didn't mess that up. Okay, now I need to come back in here, and I want to go to my rates. Now, this is kind of important here. When you're doing your report, anytime you're doing work like this, you want to have the data in the order that makes sense. And in this case, you had 3 trials, so you put those 3 trials in there in order: trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. We're now going to go to table 1. Why? Because table 1 has the data that we got from those graphs. So we can't put table 1 before. So we're going to put this in. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to come into Word, and I need to get some space here. And oops, there we go. And now I'm going to paste it in, and I'm just going to paste it in with, I'll check a couple of these, see which one looks the best. That one almost looks best. I don't like the way those things have lined up there. So I'm just going to go back to here. Whoops, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Okay, well, there we are. So I've got this, and I think I'm still in Word, so I can, maybe I'll fix this up a little bit by taking out, I could take out, say, the bottom border. So that, I'd have to play around with this a little bit. I'm not going to do this right now. I can center this up a little bit if I want to, but I've got my data in there. Like I said, I might want to touch this up a little bit. I kind of fat fingered that and brought it in. Now, this data down here, this average rate, and you might want to even go in and color these cells a little bit differently, since that is your data that you're going to be reporting. Okay, that's the data that is going to go into, that makes up the next figure. And so now we come over back into Excel and we grab our summary graph, and we would copy it, and we would come back in here, give ourselves a little space, and we would paste it in as, it did not copy. Paste special, I'm going to paste it in as a JPEG. I don't know why it did that. And so there it is, and it's probably a little bit too big. Just want to make sure it fits on the page. Okay, so there's our graph. And in this case, since these two things, since table 1 and figure 4 are close together, I'm just going to drop it in between here and insert a page break. Since I'm going to go on to an extra page anyway, I may as well have those two together on the same page. And so now all my information is in here. I've got all my figures. It took up 3 pages. I've got, 1 or 2 figures or tables per page. That's everything I need. The last thing I need to do is to come in here, and I need to save this with a good name. So File, Save As, and I am going to look for a good spot to put it. And I am going to put it, if I can find it here, into this folder where I'm doing some work. I don't want to call it that. I can just, unless somebody else has my same last name, which is doubtful in this world, I could say McShafery, Biofuel sample graphs, or practice graphs, whatever you want to call it. This way I've got a file name that makes sense to me. I can tell what this is. It makes sense to my instructor. They know whose it is. Good file naming, and save. And then to turn it in, if your instructor requires it saved as a PDF file, You could save it as an Adobe PDF, or you can print it as an Adobe PDF. So I am going to save it, and I'm going to put it in the same directory and save. And then that is what I would upload into this file right here is what I would upload. And when you do that final one, always run through it. Make sure the page breaks are where you expect them to be, that you're not breaking sections across pages or leaving stuff orphaned. So that's the assignment. That's all you need to do to put that together. So good luck with it. And again, these are the practice ones. You're going to need to do this again when you have your actual data for your final graphs that you put in your lab report. Only those, instead of pasting them into a document like this, you're going to be pasting them into your lab report, again, in the exact order that they are here. Remembering your lab report, you might have a figure 1 that would be a drawing of your respirometer, in which case this becomes figure 2, figure 3, figure 4, and this last one would be figure 5. Okay? So good luck with your graphs.